Hey everyone, I'm Breanna from Boom, and welcome back to this week's Boom Chat. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Gabby Rivera and Celia Moscote, the kick ass team that's bringing you Juliet Takes a Breath. Juliet Milagros Palante is leaving the Bronx and headed to Portland, Oregon. She just came out to her family and isn't sure if her mom will ever speak to her again. But don't worry, Juliet has something kind of resembling a plan that'll help her figure out what it means to be Puerto Rican, lesbian, and out. See, she's going to intern with Harlowe Brisbane, her favorite author, whose latest book on feminism and finding power in your body has Juliet ready to stomp the patriarchy and fall forever in love with herself. I love that. There's just one problem. Harlow's clueless, not from the Bronx, and doesn't have the answers. Okay, maybe that's more than one problem, but Juliet never said it was a perfect plan. Okay, y'all. Gabby, tell me everything. Where did this idea come from? What inspired you to write this story? I need to know.
Brianna, what a beautiful introduction. I mean, Juliet Takes a Breath is like just one of those stories that came from a little bit of my real life experience, right? When I was 19 years old, I fell in love with a feminist book and created an internship. And I went to Portland and I like hung out with this white hippie lady and like uh, all sorts of shenanigans ensued. And so that was something that happened. And a friend of mine was like, "You should write about it." And I didn't think too much of it. I just sat there and I like wrote it all down. I mean, when I was in the process of writing it, that's kind of when I started to think about like the bigger implications, right? Like what kind of like Latina representation had I seen? Was there any room for me in like mainstream literature? What did it mean to have a character, right, who's Latina, but she's not like Sofia Vergara, you know what I mean? She's
Yeah.
awkward and sweaty and chubby and like giggly and nervous, you know what I mean? Like I felt like there was that big void for that sort of tenderness and goofiness in our characters. I mean, just across the board for people of color, you know. And so
Oh, yeah.
that kind of like fueled me forward. Like, what would I have wanted at 19? What kind of story would I have wanted as like a my own, you know, a queer, chubby Puerto Rican kid, like trying to figure myself out. And so that love and that energy is everything that I put into Juliet Takes a Breath.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And the thing is, like, when you're reading it, you feel that love coming back out at you. Like, let me tell you, when I was finished reading it, I was like, I have so much joy in me right now from this book. This is amazing. And like, I hit up all my friends, and most of my friends are queer and they're femme presenting, but I was like, you guys, I have this book for you. You have to read this. You all, and they were like, what is it? And I was like, there is a queer Latina storyline, and they're like, give me it, I need it. Like, I've never seen myself in a comic book before. So like, from all of my friends, like, thank you so much for giving people something that they can look at and see themselves in, because it's so important right now. And it's just like so joyful and uplifting, and I'm babbling, but it's so
Okay.
wonderful.
I mean, listen, thank you. Like, I feel that we make offerings to each other, right? Like, as creators, as artists, as writers, as like dancers, singers. Like, yes, we do our work and we write for ourselves so that we can heal and we can grow. And also, it's like offerings, right, to our communities to like guide, lead the way, offer some gentle like love and care, you know. So yeah, so if you're thanking me, we got to thank like the Leslie Feinbergs who wrote Stone Butch Blues, and the Jean Cordovas When We Were Outlaws, and there's Audre Lorde Sister Outsider, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
so many folks that like have left beautiful works. And so if in some way Juliet Takes a Breath is a part of that, that's a real honor.
I mean, it's beautiful, and I can't wait for more people to like discover it and read it and find the same joy. And so that brings me to Celia. My goodness, your character designs are so beautiful. How did you design all of these characters? How did you decide who got what kind of style, what they were going to look like, what their vibe was going to be? Tell me, I need to know.
I was like the entire time because I got, the actual like draft of the book and like I was in tears first of all reading it because it was just something I really wish I had had growing up as like a little gay Latina, not really having, my older siblings have always been supportive, but like having somebody who's actually gay as like inspo was like something I really wish I had. And as I'm reading, I'm looking at these characters, I'm trying to figure them out and everything. And also like I've always grown up in LA, so I'm like trying to figure out like, okay, like, well, what do people in Miami, like how is that culture different from here? Same thing with like being in Oregon and all of that. I'm like, I don't know what any of this looks like. So it was a lot of doing research of that and being like, well, what's the culture there? But also in terms of like, what's the Black and brown culture there? Same thing with like Miami versus like the white culture and the people that are there. Because I know plenty about the white culture, about, Portland and all of that. But, I've never really thought about the Black and brown folk that do exist there, because obviously they exist everywhere. And so that was really fun figuring all that out. And like their designs, I'm so proud of all of their designs. Like,
you should be. They're amazing.
Every single one of them is exactly the type of character type that I enjoy drawing. And it was such a pleasure to be able to design them. It was amazing.
I love it. I mean, bringing them to life and like seeing them interacting with each other and their styles and their haircuts. And it's so lovely seeing so many characters that are all in different shades. And it's just something that like I can really appreciate. I mean, as somebody who is mixed, I am Black, I am a whole bunch of other different things. Like it is wonderful when you get to see so many different like people, like spectrums of people. Like, and we're all just people, and it just makes it that much more real, because you're like, this is what life looks like. So again, yeah, thank you for doing that. Like, it's so beautiful. And like, everybody's got different shapes and sizes. And I'm just like, this is like, how? I don't even know how to ask you other than how, because you did such a great job.
Yeah, I think it's really a part of like taking in the fact that there are different body types in the world. I know people have, especially artists, at times can kind of get pigeonholed into one area of just being like, I'm only going to draw this phenotype of person / character. And that's just not how I operate at all. Like everybody deserves to feel represented and respected. And that's always been how I felt about my art. And I've always worked so hard to learn as many different body types as I can and facial structures to make sure that everyone's there, because the world is so diverse. It's so disappointing that so many people don't realize that in their art, and they don't think it's important. It's extremely important to represent so many different types of people, because you have no idea what impact that has on people to be able to see themselves in media.
It absolutely has an impact. And I just, again, thank you both for contributing to that.
Celia, like you just right out the gate nailed it with like Juliet's like thickness and like the light in her cheeks and her eyes, and just like I know that I can feel how much love that you put into drawing all the characters, like even with Harlowe, when I first saw Harlowe, you nailed her like spiky hair and her like wildness in her eyes. And I was just like, this Celia is amazing. Like you really captured it, like from the first rounds of drafts of what they look like. It was so beautiful.
I love these characters so much, and I care so much about them. Even though Juliet, this is about her journey and, learning more about herself. To me, she just has so much light and love inside of her, despite where she is, in the beginning versus the end. And I love Juliet. She's great.
I love like seeing the journey and the evolution, and it's amazing. Okay. So my next question is for Gabby.
Yes.
How was writing the graphic novel different from writing the novel?
I actually loved the experience and the challenge of writing this graphic novel, because we kind of did it in a different way. Shannon Waters at Boom, who is the editor and a friend and just like a hell of a human being, right? We kind of talked through how we wanted to do Juliet, the graphic novel. And I felt really comfortable and excited about opening up the possibility of the artist taking the book and like kind of running with it and seeing what they came up with. So like having that on one hand, and also with Shannon and then on my own, going through the book and being like, what are the key moments and what are the key emotions, right? What are plot elements that I cannot live without, and what can we like release, right? And say, hey, that's what the book is for. How do we like, we need to do different things for the graphic novel, you know? And so it was the combination of those two things that led to the creation of this book. And so once I did that like kind of structural work, then here I get like Celia's first draft, and she's like picked out these moments perfectly and has like elaborated in these one panel like scenes, right? Where it's just Juliet's cheeks, and it was, then I'm putting in the words, and it just all sort of flowed together. And it was a way more collaborative process. And also like, you know, it's, this book is so much focused on my life and my work, and it felt really good to be able to open that space up and be like, well, let's do this together. Like, let's allow other folks to interpret what's going on here. Like, it was fun and challenging.
That's awesome. So it's basically kind of like you have to go and you have to find like those load bearing walls, and you have to be like, okay, this has to stay. This wall can go. We can expand it here. I love it.
Okay, Property Brothers, I see you with that. Yes, okay. Breanna, is our audience kids, or is it like kids, teenagers, adults? It's like general audience here, right?
It is not for kids. I never marked that this is for kids.
So one moment, Celia, that I just like freaking, I've been meaning to tell you, I don't know if I emailed you, but like there's this scene where Juliet is in a tub, right? And like also it leads to like a masturbation scene, right?
Yeah.
But what it really is like a pleasure moment for her, and like a body love moment. And the way that like Celia, that you drew her like voluptuousness and the water around her, and then like those up close face pictures of her face where she is having that pleasurable moment, I was so moved. I've never seen that for Latinas like anywhere. Like we're usually sexualized for the pleasure of others, right? For men, for movies, for whatever it is, you know, like, but I just feel like that's so groundbreaking. I can't wait for readers and young people and everybody, right? Viejitas too, to like see that and know that we declared that moment for Juliet's pleasure and for the pleasure of young women and femmes of color everywhere.
I love it.
I love that scene so much. Honestly, any scene where she's like by the water, in the water, the shower, any of those, it's just, I think it's because she's being stripped down to her most vulnerable because she's naked. And you can really, like, there's no over sexualization. It's just her in that moment, even though she is naked, and she's loving herself more and more so on. And then, you know, you invite Kira and all of this into it. And it's just, those are my favorite scenes. I love those scenes. So thank you.
I love it. Gabby, you're doing my job for me. You took me right into my next question for Celia. I love it, because that question is, what were some of your favorite scenes to draw, your favorite moments, and also for me, because I love knowing, what medium do you generally work in?
So my favorite scenes, I think any scenes with like Maxine in them, like, because I absolutely adore Maxine.
Yeah.
I love her in every single way. She's amazing. Any scenes with Maxine, Kira and Juliet together, because who doesn't love seeing two ladies together in love? Those are just some of my favorites.
Good.
Once she gets to Miami, her with Ava and her family, because I absolutely adore drawing her aunt. Like, I know she's barely in there, but like I love her aunt so much, because she makes me think of like my own aunt and like my own family, because that's what I used for a lot of the inspo as well. It's just like literally looking around my house at the rest of my family, like my grandma over there waddling around in her robe, and like my aunt. You know, like I look to my family for a lot of inspiration. And so those are some of my favorite. Also, I think probably Juliet's like running away scene, and her just like, you know, calling Ava and being like, I need to get out of here. Like, I'm not safe here. And them having that moment and her going and picking her up. Yeah, just, I think those are my top favorite scenes, just like all of Miami and like
It's all beautiful. So when you're drawing, what mediums are you working in? Do you do more digital? Do you do anything that's like standard pen and ink?
I've definitely switched over to like completely digital now. That's just the medium that I work fastest in. I wish I could do traditional. I'm just not that kind of gal. I have the patience for it, but just the way these sweaty hands are set up, I am not going to be able to work with that ink. I will mess everything up. So it's just digital on my iPad, and I do a lot of the setting up the panels on my laptop in Clip Studio, and then I'll switch over to the iPad to do like the rest of the inking.
That's so cool. I always love knowing like an artist process because I'm always so interested in it because I'm like, it's so pretty. How do you do this?
It's just like torture, just figuring out what pens to use, and like it's all fun in the end, when you see the final finished product, you're like, this is amazing, I love this. But in the beginning, like setting up those comic panels, I was like, what am I doing? I don't know. I have to switch this around, but it's all good in the end.
That's amazing. I love it. You have to try and see what works.
Yeah, basically, it's just trial and error at that point. Honestly, some of us don't know what we're doing. It's just trial and error.
Do any of us know what we're doing? So that kind of brings me to my next question. Maybe kind of, I don't know. Gabby, you read tarot cards.
I do read tarot cards.
You do read tarot cards. I have a really weird question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever read tarot cards for any of your characters? And if you read Juliet's tarot cards, what do you think they would say?
Well, hold on 1 second. Can you hear that noise in the background? My dog is chewing a bone. You guys hear that?
No, it's fine,
okay,
but I love it.
It's like clong, clong, clong. Anyway, okay, you'll edit that out or something.
Or we'll leave it because animals, they happen.
Yeah, what was the question again?
So, if you were to read, do you ever read tarot cards for your characters? And if you read tarot cards for Juliet, what might they say?
Yes. Okay. So I love reading tarot cards for my characters. I think that's just like, it's just one of those exercises, right? Where if you're feeling writer's block or if you're feeling frustrated in any way, it's like making a playlist for your character. Just one of those ways to like explore and get into the groove of what you're doing. I did that with the comic BB Free, right? That I had with Boom Studios. They're on like an epic divine adventure. And so there are a ton of times where I read BB and Chulita's cards and would be like, oh yeah, of course, the Six of Pentacles, they're on their way, And for Juliet, I might do a reading for her today now that you brought it up, because I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I haven't done that. I think that if I was gonna pull a card for Juliet, it would probably be the Sun. And in my Next World Tarot deck, the Sun is embodied by like a young, like 5-year-old Black girl, like with butterflies around her, and she's like looking up at the sky. And it's just this card that's like full of abundance and like childhood joy and energy. And so, yeah, that's what I would, that's what I would pick for her.
I love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of joy, also quick question, what's going on with Joy Revolution? Are you going to be doing any more episodes?
Listen, running a podcast is like hard, right? So I'm trying to like figure out, I invested my own funds in it to pay like my producers and my people to like make it nice, but can't be funding your own projects all the time. So I'm working on a way to like get more money to pay people to do a season 2. We have not given up. We are moving forward, but like, everybody talks about how hard it can be for creators of color, especially like women and queer folks, to like keep their projects funded. People want your content, but they don't want to like help you like pay for it, or they want to own it, and then you don't get the creative control. So like, I'm still trying to like figure that stuff out. You know what I mean? Like maybe get a sponsor or like something like that. I know that's not like a dreamy answer, because really with Joy Revolution, we know who we want to talk to next. We've got big ideas for what we want to do, and it's just like finding the money for our labor and our energy, you know, to like
Yeah.
creating. Yeah. But
No,
I'm
that's
glad you
wonderful. I was listening. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so fun. And so my next question actually is, what's been bringing you joy lately?
Mm. You know, I was just gonna say, I got like during COVID, I booed up for the first time in like 5 years, and
What?
yeah, my lady is a powerhouse, and she is driven, and she is kind and sweet, and like every time I turn around, we're going hiking or taking the dogs to the park, and so it's just been such a blessing. So to be in love is giving me much joy in this pandemic.
Oh, that's so beautiful. No, that's beautiful. I love that.
So Celia,
Celia,
let's do that as a comic next. Like,
I I would love to see that. Like, give me. I want to know about all of your adventures. And that brings me to Celia. Like, what are you interested in? What are you doing? What's been bringing you joy and all of this?
Probably like the same as Gabby. I'm actually in a relationship for the first time in a
woo,
really
woo,
Yay!
yeah. High
long
five, Celia.
time. Yeah, it's fucking great. But, like, it's really been amazing because I'm with someone who is also like non-binary, gender queer, all of that, and that's been an amazing journey because I've only ever dated people who are cisgender, and so being able to relate to that similar experience has just been it's wonderful. It's been great. In terms of, I really want like personal projects. I really want to release like work on my own comic. I've just been doing like building my portfolio even more. Character design and all of that because I genuinely do enjoy doing comics and character design is my favorite thing in the world. I want to keep doing it. But I would like to do my own personal project and work on that. And I do have two concepts in mind. It's just like finding the motivation between everything because when it's your own personal project, you're the writer, letterer, colorist, inker, everything. So I'm like, okay, and I don't have the same motivation that I did when I was like 17, banging out comics, like nothing. So I think that's my main thing right now is just working on getting my own comic out and also finding a tattoo apprenticeship because I want to be a tattoo artist as well.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Beyond
You can
that.
practice.
Okay.
Yo, you can practice. I got a whole back and some hips that you could work on. Like,
Yeah.
gosh, I love that. I love that you're in love. That's so beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I love that you're writing your own comics. Like, if you ever just want to kick some ideas or send a draft, I'd be happy to like read anything, like for sure. Just
Thank
so you know.
you. Yeah, I'll
I
definitely,
love this.
if I get this apprenticeship, definitely I'll hit you up when I'm better and we can work. I'll tattoo you. No worries at all.
I love it. I love this all so much. Also, like, hi, me too, because I have space.
Heck yeah. Anything you want, I'm down.
This has been such a joy. Thank you both so much for your time today. I have enjoyed learning so much about the both of you and just getting to chat with you and just experience the joy that you're having. So thank you for that. And thank you for your work. And for those of you watching at home, be sure to pick up a copy of Juliet Takes a Breath in stores now.